Hello everyone, my name's Phil Calvert and a very warm welcome to the Financial Advisor Mastermind and Challenge. Throughout this week, advisors, leading experts and consultants to the financial planning profession are sharing amazing insights into just what makes a world-class financial advice business. Today, I'm delighted to be speaking with someone who helps companies attract and acquire more ideal clients through more compelling value, referrals, word of mouth and introductions, with the goal of increasing your revenue without increasing your marketing expenses. In fact, many would argue that the person I'm talking to today is the leading expert in referral marketing. And I've often heard people say that they wish they had got to know him much earlier in their careers. Bill Cates, a very warm welcome to you.
Spending some time with me today.
That's great. Fantastic to see you. I've been training financial advisors on marketing since I started in financial services, which was 40 years ago, and in recent years by myself. But whenever I do a talk or any training session on marketing financial advisors, this is the book that I say they need to read.
Well, thank you.
This is the book for financial advisors on how to build a referral mindset, which is something I want to explore with you today. Mm-hmm. First of all, tell us how you got involved in getting to where you are today.
Sure. I've been helping financial folks for over 25 years. Sometimes if I want to sound or feel old, I say quarter century, and on building their business, mostly through referrals. And just a genesis of my business, when I first started and I had my first book come out, which was called Unlimited Referrals, which is no longer on the market. Most companies, most advisors hire me to help them learn how to ask for referrals without begging, without pushing. And we'll certainly talk about that today. But I discovered that a lot of these folks weren't actually referable in the first place.
Right.
They weren't getting many unsolicited referrals, which is a kind of a barometer of your referability. So I had to, for a lot of folks, I had to get into the concept of client engagement and how to become referable in the first place. And then, in the United States, and I'm sure you have similar restrictions in the UK, the do not call regulations hit, other technology hits. It's just harder to reach people these days. So we then got focused on the introduction, not just the referral, but the introduction. And we'll certainly talk about that today as well.
Yeah.
And as you know, I'm writing a new book. It's called Radical Relevance. And it's about how we talk about our value, because I've discovered that a lot of advisors, if they get introduced, and it's a really strong introduction, a high trust relationship, it almost doesn't matter how they talk about their value. You have someone that's pretty much ready. They trust you because they trust their friend. But I've also found a lot of folks, if their value prop isn't as strong as it could be, how they talk about their value, I should say, then, they may have an initial phone call or meeting that's the prospect seems interested, but then they go silent. They're not converting as many of those prospects into clients as they would like to. And so that's what this new book is about, how we talk about our value. Which permeates all aspects of the referral and the introductory process.
That's a really good place to start, because value is so important now. There is nothing that somebody couldn't find out for themselves on the internet about personal finance, investing, and many will be tempted to think, well, why do I need to go to talk to a financial advisor? After all, they charge me a fee now. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. People used to complain because financial advisors used to take a commission from a provider. Now, right. A lot of people complain because they have to pay a fee, but they're happy to pay a fee to an accountant. So the advisors really got to be pretty clear about what their value is, haven't they?
Well, they do. And they have to be also clear on how to articulate it to other people. And it's both, obviously. And it starts with how you feel about your value and the value that you bring, and then how you talk about it. It's interesting how I remember when the internet was coming out and the do not call regulations hit over here in the States, and they started selling insurance on the internet, and everyone was up in arms about how, everything is going to go to the internet. And certainly a lot of people do get their service, their information, et cetera, from the internet, but it really hasn't damaged the business that much, because it has to be customized to them, and the internet can't really do that. Now, maybe for an insurance product it can, but not for a holistic approach to someone's financial planning and financial future. So a lot of these folks that try to do it themselves eventually realize that they need someone's wisdom,
Yes.
right, and experience. And so I know my own advisor, he won't talk to someone, he won't even meet with anyone who's a professed do-it-yourselfer. He finds that they just don't become good clients if they become a client at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we could how we talk about our value is so key. And I found the most important part of it is being relevant to the other person. So what the mistake that I see a lot of people make is they're kind of generic in how they talk about what they do, and sometimes a little too big in their approach of who they want to take into their practice.
Okay.
And so I found the more targeted and more narrow, the better, because what happens is how you talk about your value becomes more effective when you're more narrow in your approach. And you can have 2 or 3 targets. You don't have to have just one, but you shouldn't have a generalist approach to communicating to 3 different targets. Yep. If you have 3 different types of targets, let's say you're working with, retired individuals. Let's say you're working with business owners. Let's say you're working with young couples or widows and divorcees or whatever. Your message should be different to each one of those people, because when you try to expand the boat and make your message, appeal to all, you run the risk of appealing to no one.
Yeah.
So my book is all about how you make these targeted messages to be more effective.
That sounds great. Now, when we're talking to financial advisors in the UK, I run an online forum for advisors, and one of the questions that comes up time and time and time again is, how do you go about getting new clients? Now, most advisors will say, well, our number one source of new inquiries is referrals from existing clients. We've done a great job, and so we don't need to do this silly social media stuff. We rely on referrals, and there's an interesting word in there, rely. And occasionally, if things have gone down a bit, they may buy a few leads from an online service or something like that. I worry that the word rely on referrals is a little bit loose. And what I don't see with financial advisors is a clear-cut, structured referral mechanism. And I think that's something you focus on. I think I've seen you talk about a referral mindset. Can you just talk us through what that means?
Sure. Boy, there's a lot. You just said a lot. Yet one of the mindset that I found that when I talk about mindset, I talk about the sometimes limited thinking, mistaken assumptions that people have, as well as the expansive opportunistic mindset. So I'll give you a few thoughts here. First of all, this idea of relying on referrals. Now, I think that if someone says to me, Bill, I get all the referrals I need to all the right people that are taking me in my business in the direction I want to take it, doing the work I love to do, God bless you, and that's wonderful. And if you can sustain that, then more power to you. A lot of people think that, if I just serve the heck out of my clients, then the referrals will flow. And that's kind of half true. If you do a great job for your clients, if you have a great initial process, ongoing processes, et cetera, to stay in touch and bring value, and I would like to talk about some of that as we move forward, then yes, you will get some referrals. Unsolicited referrals are a barometer of doing a good job, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah. But they're not always enough. They're not always the right kind or taking you in the right direction. And some folks, some advisors that maybe have junior advisors working with them, associates, they need to, get more to help those people, or maybe they're offloading, their B and C clients to their junior advisor, and they're looking for more of the A plus clients, right? Yeah. So I certainly advocate being proactive. So yeah, you serve the heck out of your clients, you should not, then something's clearly missing. But since it's involved with financial matters, not everybody talks about it. They don't always think about it. So we have to be proactive. Right. That's one of the mindset. Another mindset is, building business the way, just making the decision to build a business based on referrals, and not just referrals, but introductions. These days we're we're really using the word introductions a lot more because we got to get connected to those people.
Okay.
That old, referred lead, call George, use my name, just doesn't work so well anymore because George doesn't pick up his phone. We're not in his cell phone, so he doesn't know who we are. And he's wondering why their friend gave his name out in the first place. So we got to get a connect, an email. LinkedIn plays a role in this. What LinkedIn, and I know that you're big and you're very knowledgeable around LinkedIn. LinkedIn can help us determine who we might want to talk to our clients about. LinkedIn can help us make a connection. There's a lot of ways that LinkedIn plays a role in this referral process. Your LinkedIn profile, right? It's got to be a great one because if even someone gets referred to you, they're going to look you up. They're going to search you. And usually the first thing that comes up, if it's not your website, it's your LinkedIn profile. And so you got to pay attention to all those things. So what else? Mindset. The mindset of understanding that the lifetime value of a client isn't just the business you can do with them, right? So a lot of people rely on referrals, but they see it as icing on the cake. They don't see it as the cake. They don't realize that this person I'm serving well and I'm building a great relationship with, and I'm maybe even building a bit of a business friendship with them, they can introduce me to folks for a long period of time if I go about it right. And I'm not or aggressive at this at all. Being appropriately proactive. So here's a mistaken assumption. A lot of people mistakenly believe that asking for referrals or introductions it isn't safe. It's risky. And if you believe it's risky, then guess what? You won't do it. Yeah. You may be with a client who may be talking about a friend, a colleague, a family member who you could serve very well and bring great value to. But if you believe it's risky, if that's an underlying belief, then you won't go there.
We also have we've also got a little British thing as well, which kicks in occasionally, where people think, it's not quite the right thing to do to ask for referrals.
Well, exactly. It's the same dynamic. You don't want to put people on the spot. You don't want to look needy. You don't want to look pushy. You don't want to look unsuccessful. There's a lot of, and a lot of folk, I tell you, when I do my seminars and speeches, and I say, why do people not ask for referrals? Why do advisors not ask referrals? The first word that gets yelled out is fear.
Okay.
I go, okay, fear of what? And usually the first one is fear of rejection. Interestingly enough, here you have a client who likes you, likes your work, right? Maybe they even introduce you to someone down the road a long while, but yet you're afraid that if you suggest the possibility of introductions and they say no, right, that's going to feel like rejection. They're rejecting you, rejecting your value, which is not true at all. Again, it's a mistaken assumption. So they're all the limitations are fear-based. But, maybe you've heard the acronym, fear, false evidence appearing real. It feels real. I get it. I don't want to diminish the uncomfortableness, the step out of the comfort zone necessary to be appropriately proactive. Heck, I've been in this business for over 25 years. I still feel that from time to time.
Yeah.
Right? The question is, what do we do with it? And do we let it stop us, or do we make the decision to be committed to this process of referrals and introductions? So you can dabble in it. We all know what to do with one if we get it, if we trip over one, or we can make a decision to build a business based on referrals and introductions and all the things that go with it.
That's really interesting. Somebody told me the other day, and I can understand, it wasn't all that long ago when somebody might be at a dinner party or in a bar and the conversation got round to personal finance. Mm-hmm. And someone said, that's interesting. I'm looking for somebody to just check over my investments and put a plan in place. And somebody at the table said, well, check out my financial advisor. And, you'd write it down on the napkin and the next day you'd phone them up. But today there's an extra step, it seems, possibly, where they don't necessarily just phone them up. They might go to the internet. And when they're on the internet, they'll see a list of other financial advisors. They'll get distracted. So in other words, there must be, and I'm guessing you have a process for this, a way of making sure that referral is done properly.
Sure. Yeah. And that's about teaching. It's about teaching our clients. We can teach our clients how to introduce people to us and help them understand that just mentioning our name, well, that's nice. Or if they're carrying our card in their wallet, fine, great, hand it out. I appreciate it. But that's not usually enough for a couple of reasons. The reason you stated, that people get distracted and they look around, and the other fact is that a lot of people they don't want to attend to this, right? There's fear on their side. Maybe they don't want to really take an honest look at their financial situation. All kinds of reasons why people put this work off, right? So we have to teach our clients. And I would say to you, Philip, if you identify someone who you think is a candidate for the work I do, maybe you're at a dinner party or talking with colleagues and someone expresses a desire to work with a professional, obviously I would love you to recommend me. And here's what I found. If you just say, hey, call my advisor, call Bill, that's great. But the odds are they're not going to call me. They're going to get distracted. They're going to keep putting it off. So what I would like you to do, if you're okay with it, is to actually make a connection, is actually introduce us, perhaps make an email introduction, or even, get permission from them to receive a call or an email from me. So at least I know there's someone willing and waiting to hear from me. So what we're doing here, of course, out of the role play, is teaching people what it looks like, and in a client-focused way, a value-focused way, meaning people put this work off, right? People know they should do this, but they get in their own way. And so unless you make a connection, an introduction, odds are I may not be able to actually help them and help them make an educated decision that's in their best interest. So you can have that conversation all day long with your clients, and without even really asking for referrals. But what does it do? It certainly plants a seed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It promotes the possibility. Now they know how to make a connection if it comes up, and their awareness is increased around the idea that you're open for business, but not in a needy way, in a way that you want to bring your value to other people in the right way. So that, it's about teaching people.
That's a really interesting thing. I can imagine that people, when they start to learn about improving their referrals, they've got to get into this mindset where they ask for it. But I hadn't appreciated that you can then teach the client how to refer you properly.
Well, actually, yes, it's true. And there's a lot of things that an advisor can do short of asking. I had an advisor call me once, wanted some coaching, and he says, but Bill, I got to tell you, I'm never going to ask for referrals. I just won't do it. Can you still help me? And I said, sure. We're going to make you more referable. We're going to move you along in that. We're going to help you create these super engaged clients. So you've made a value connection with them. You've made a human connection with them. The ground will be ripe for that. You will get more unsolicited referrals. And then we have the first step of proactivity. I call it promoting introductions. Sometimes I call it planting seeds, because it's something we can say, like what I role played for you. That's planting a seed, right? I'm not asking outright for introductions, but I'm teaching you when the opportunity presents itself, here's the best way to do it. And I might also teach you the best way to talk about what I do. So that's one way. I've got a line I've been teaching forever. One of my books is this title: don't keep me a secret. Don't keep us a secret. If a client says, hey, this is great, we always feel better after we talk to you, great. We're never too busy to see if we can help other people you care about. Please don't keep us a secret. That's a little fun thing to say. It's got a little smile on the end of it, right?
It's quite easy to do.
It's very easy to do. Now, I know some advisors, it's I don't know, it's too playful for them, and that's fine. We have lots of ways to do this. Also, notice I said never too busy to see if I can be a resource. Yep. So that's planting a seed to see if I can be a resource. So for a brand new advisor that you're looking to talk to anybody who fogs a mirror, you'll talk to them because you just need to get better at what you're doing and pay the rent or the mortgage. Take the to see out. But to an experienced advisor, you want to be in a qualifying mode, right? Never too busy to see if I can be a resource, because not everybody's a good match for your business. Yeah. And if they're not a good match for you, you're not the right advisor for them. So there's a lot of ways to promote these and these referrals. Another real quick one is to just, this kind of goes similar to what I said earlier, but a little more to it, teaching people how you would handle it if someone did introduce you. Philip, if you ever identify someone you think should know about the work I do, let me share with you how we would handle it so you'd feel comfortable.
Mm.
First of all, the work we do is completely confidential. They're not going to learn about your financial situation from me and vice versa. And I handle this sort of thing with great care, meaning I'm not just going to all of a sudden call them out of the blue and surprise them and make them wonder, why did Philip give my name out to this guy, right? I like to work through introductions. So you and I will talk about an appropriate way for you to introduce me. And there's a little more to that, but that's the idea. And these are you can do short of actually asking for introductions that will leverage this hard work that we put into creating great relationships.
It sounds like there's a strong level of courtesy in there as well, which you're leveraging.
Well, yeah, and it's true. It's true. And notice I said, we'll talk together about the introduction, right? So I'm already planting the seed that this is going to be soft. This is going to be okay. So they're going to feel much more comfortable talking about me to other people because they know, that it's going to be an appropriate way of making an introduction.
Yeah.
I know some people put by referral only on their business card.
Yes. Yeah.
What does that say? By referral only. Well, it says you're successful.
Mm.
And when people, talk about you, your clients talk about you to others, and, she only works through referrals. Oh, okay. Well, would you be willing to introduce me? Do you think he'll have time for me? And then all of a sudden, you create a little higher level of status.
Yeah.
That way. So there's lots of ways to do this.
You alluded a little earlier to enhancing your referability. I think a number of financial advisors, there's perhaps a feeling, well, if I've done a great job, of course they're going to refer me.
Maybe.
What sort of, up to a point, yeah. What sort of things can advisors do to actually enhance their referability?
Yeah, sure. So Julie Littlechild is with a firm called Absolute Engagement out of Toronto. And she's done this study a number of years. And she discovered that there's actually a low correlation between the satisfied client and the actual giving of referrals, making introductions. In her study, only 20% of satisfied clients engaged in the referral process. And then she discovered a higher level that we both were calling engaged clients. Engaged clients, 100% loyalty, 98% of engaged clients created introductions in the preceding 12 months in the study. So our goal was to create an engaged client. All right, so what's an engaged client? Well, an engaged client is someone who we've connected well with in two ways. One, on the value connection. We ask great questions. We teach. We're responsive service. We give good advice, et cetera. That's the value connection.
Yeah. And
then the human connection, where we talk about our personal why and what drives us in this business. And maybe we have social events for our clients, appreciation events. But we find ways to connect with our clients on the personal level as well, the human level. And that's what creates advocates, when you really connect on that human level. So the goal was engagement. I divided the client process or the client journey into three unequal thirds or unequal parts. The first one is the prospecting experience. In other words, the value that you're bringing and the connection that you're making with someone before they become a client.
Right.
Doing a great job there. The next is the onboarding process, which a lot of advisors don't pay attention to as well as they could. So when I mean by onboarding, I don't mean just, entering them all their data into the computer and stuff. I mean reaching out to them with some other value, reaching out to them with a human connection, taking them to lunch, inviting them to an event, having an onboarding process. Brian Sweet's an advisor near Minneapolis, and he has what he calls a 90-day dazzle. He doesn't tell his new clients, that they're going to go through this 90-day dazzle, but everyone on his team knows that this is what's happening. You have a checklist. There's certain things. You may send a copy of his book out. You may invite them to an event. Over the course of 90 days, there's this touch, and they get welcomed into the metaphorical family in this great way. A lot of unsolicited referrals that way. And then the ongoing client service model, how you stay in touch with people over time, all with the idea that we have to keep bringing value and we have to keep up the human connection. Both of those are important all along the way. So if we attend to those, we create these engaged relationships, and it's engaged clients who give referrals. It's not just satisfied clients. And so that's what we need to do to become more referable. So we'll get unsolicited And if we do ask, we have people that are more receptive.
That's really interesting. So it's more about the customer experience than anything else. You mentioned he gives him a copy of his book. Just as a side issue, how important are things like that? Having books, and clearly qualifications are important. That's the ticket to the game. But what about those extra things like books?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's critical. Certainly, there's so many people who have been very successful without writing a book.
Yeah.
But you're seeing more of it happen. And, quite often they're self-published and they're a tool in the marketing and the prospecting process. It can be very helpful. To me, here's my philosophy. Experts, which advisors are, they have an expertise. They're experts in an area. Experts write and experts speak. And so I think having, the ability to and the inclination to write and create some of your own educational materials goes a long way. Now, clearly, you can get other materials and you can share other people's materials, and that's still good too. But if your name is on it, if you wrote this white paper, you wrote this report, you wrote this book, that adds another level of credibility to what you do. So writing, I think, is important. And then also speaking. And I know a lot of advisors do speak. They do seminars and things like that. But that's also an important tool for experts.
Yeah.
So a book isn't critical by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're inclined to do one and you have one, there are ways to use it and use it powerfully.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something earlier, and I've seen it in your book, about going to the first meeting with a client with looking for that referral firmly in mind. Can you talk me through that? Yeah,
sure. So the mistake that people make if they ask at all is they throw it open to the whole universe and they say, Philip, who do you know we might be able to help, or who do you know should know about the work that you found valuable? Throw it open to the whole universe, and usually it fizzles. They draw a blank. Maybe they're not sure they want to do it. Whatever. It doesn't usually produce a result. I mean, occasionally it does. I guess it plants the seed that you're open for business, but it doesn't usually do much more than that.
Okay.
On the flip side, the most powerful way to come to a conversation looking for introductions is to ask for an introduction to a specific person. So if you think of a target, archery or whatever, and the bullseye, the bullseye is someone they know. It could be someone from their LinkedIn profile that they're connected with. It could be someone they've mentioned in the past. It could be a little research you've done. They're on a board of directors in an organization, an association for their industry, whatever. So they know this person. That's the most powerful place to start. Philip, I know that George Smith. He's on the board of directors with your association. I've actually checked out his business. I get the feeling I could probably be a pretty good resource for him. How do you feel about introducing me to George? Can we come up with an approach that would feel comfortable?
Yeah.
That's it, right? And coming prepared with a couple of those is the most powerful. Now, the next ring on the target would be categories. Life events, money and motion. When I say life events, money and motion, every advisor knows what I'm talking about. And you can bring those in addition to having someone specific they know, or you could start there. It's a little less bullseye, but you could start there.
Yeah.
We're just brainstorming here. I know that you're active in your industry association, or I know that you have these guys you play golf with, or, we work with a lot of people who are thinking about selling a business. Whatever category we want to do, the best one to start with is whatever category they were in when they came to your business, right? Whatever was going on in their life that made them come to you. Yeah. That's the first one to start with, right? You came to me, Philip, because, you turned 50 and you were starting to think about retirement, and you wanted to make sure, you didn't run out of money. Who else do you know that might be in that situation and you'd feel comfortable introducing me to?
Is this what
Yes.
Is this what you mean by getting better referrals? In other words, when you're talking to a client, you already have in mind the type of person you'd like them to refer you to? or introduce?
Yeah, that's a piece of the puzzle. There's different ways to think of better referrals. Better referrals are people that are better suited for your business, right? I mean, if you have people tend to refer lateral and down on the economic ladder, generally speaking. And so if you're talking to A clients, you're most likely going to get introduced to A people. They know A people. B to B, C to C, right? So you may not want to be proactive with your C clients or your B clients unless you have an associate that you want to feed them some business.
Yeah.
So you're going to be selective on who you ask because you know that birds of a feather flock together. So that's part of it, trying to find people that fit your business. Another thought around better referrals is the qualifying them for your business. Someone suggests, hey, you should talk to my friend George. Great. I know I'm not the right advisor for everybody. Can we talk about George a little bit, his situation, why you think we might be a good match? Because it's important that I'm the right advisor for him.
Yeah.
So we're a client-focused orientation on this, right? I want to be the right person for him. So it's all the qualifying, excuse me. Also around quality is the quality of introduction, right? And I've mentioned that already, but getting introduced. Let's craft an approach. Let's come up with an approach that's going to feel comfortable. Here's what we want to think about when we're thinking about introductions. In the United States, our Food and Drug Administration, before it approves a drug for the market, wants to know that it's safe and effective. I'm sure you have a government agency that's similar, safe and effective. And so that's what we want our introductions, our referrals to look like. Safe, meaning everybody feels comfortable. The person creating introduction feels comfortable. The person being introduced to, the receiver of this, feels comfortable. And effective, meaning at least it piques their interest in hearing from us. So we talk to our clients about how they're going to introduce us. We don't just leave it to chance, assuming that our clients know how to talk about us and know how to connect us, because they may not, and they may not make a good connection. And, every advisor's heard someone say, oh, yeah, I've talked to a few folks about you. I mentioned you to my friends. Well, the phone's not ringing. You're not hearing from these people. Why? Because they don't really know the best way to do it, the way that works the best. And so that's what I mean by better. There's a lot of different layers to that concept.
That's really interesting. So what this sounds like to me is what you're advocating is rather than I work together, you're my client, we work together, and then I kind of hope for the best that the quality of the service and the expertise I've given you is going to be enough for you to refer me. What you're advocating then is that actually we now work together much more closely to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's different levels of proactivity, like as I mentioned. So, if I just assume that if I serve the heck out of you, you're going to introduce me to others, it's an incorrect assumption. Some people will. Yeah. Some people are very open in their personality. They talk about finances to other folks. It's a natural thing for them. They see themselves as connectors. Great, and we certainly want to tap into that. But a lot of other people just aren't thinking about it unless we bring it up. Let me give you one example. So I'm coaching this guy, Rod Gibbings. He's in British Columbia, Canada, out on the West Coast out there. And one of the first things that I had him do for the first 3 weeks is this method, this thing we call a value discussion. It's checking in with clients to see how are we doing, right? Anything falling through the cracks? What is working? How do we continue to earn your business? Just checking in, right? Making sure everything's okay. And so he started doing that with all his meetings. He said it's like opened up a treasure chest of opportunity. More than one client said, Rod, we love you. We feel like we're part of your family, and we'd love to introduce you to others. We're just not sure how to do it. Okay. So he identified all these people. These were all the low-hanging fruit in his practice that he just had to nudge the process a little bit. In this case, he didn't even ask. He just checked in for the value. So there's this level of activity that we need to do over and above and beyond just serving the heck out of our clients.
Yeah, interesting. Last couple of things I'll really be interested in asking you. One thing I've noticed you talk about is the value of the complaining client. We've all heard that phrase that today's most unhappy customer is potentially your best. Just talk me a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So when a client complains, sometimes they're saying, look, I like you, I like working with you, but you got to get this right, right? We have to know how to receive complaints properly, and we have to realize that they're an opportunity to strengthen the relationship.
Yeah.
And not just us as the advisor, but also our staff needs to be trained how to handle and receive complaints. And so we know that a relationship that's had a problem, that's been handled well, is a stronger relationship than one that's never had a problem, right? So that's an opportunity. We have to see this as an opportunity to show people what we're made of, that we're there for them, that we're not going to run from the problem, and we actually will create a stronger relationship because we will go through this issue together, and we will come out a better relationship. Every relationship is like that, right? Marriages, friends, you name it.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to see this as an opportunity. And we need to teach our staff that as well. If you sense someone is unhappy about something, don't just hang up the phone and hope it goes away, because they may go away, right? Step into that. Be willing to step into that conversation. Say, Mrs. Smith, I get the sense that you may not be happy with this solution, or something's bothering you about our conversation or about your meeting with Bob or whatever. And so teaching staff to be courageous and at least alert us if they do detect someone's not happy, and then how to receive the complaint, to apologize and to not get defensive and all that sort of stuff. So in fact, I mentioned this value discussion. The purpose of the value discussion, that check-in that we do at our meetings with clients, is to make sure there isn't any unspoken dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Sometimes the little stuff that they don't complain about, they don't want to be negative. It's not a huge deal, so they don't really want to complain. But if you ask them and they say, well, now that you mention it, it really would be nicer if you did this or she did that or whatever. And so to ferret that stuff out, what does that do? It creates a more engaged relationship. And it shows people that you're there for them, looking for the little stuff to make sure you're meeting and exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
So we're actually looking for complaints, right? We're looking for complaints because we want to create a stronger relationship, and we want to make sure that there isn't anything lingering and festering that might hurt us and the relationship down the road.
Yeah. So ultimately, this all comes down to mindset and putting referrals as a proactive activity within the firm. And presumably you've got a process for putting that in place, yeah?
Yeah, I do. And well, it's building a culture. It's actually building a culture in your firm. So it's the advisor isn't the only person responsible for this. Everybody in the firm is, because everyone, if you're not serving a customer or a client directly, you're serving someone who is. So it's about creating these engaged clients. We got to have to make the firm more referable in the first place. Everybody, we're working together for this. This is our goal. We're trying to create this referral culture. We're trying to create a culture where people are introducing us to others. It starts with giving great service and et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's my job mostly as the advisor. I'm going to be the one that's going to be asking for introductions, but there's some things you can do as well. Now, they can say, don't keep us a secret.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm glad you had a great meeting with Bob. We're never too busy to see if we can, help others. Don't keep us a secret out there. Okay. Well, so there's a lot of roles that they can play in that as well. And then the asking is what I call my VIPS method. And the V stands for value discussion, which we've talked about a little bit. The I is treat the request with importance. Why do we treat it with importance? Well, because the work we do is important, because we don't want to come across needy. We want to be confident. P is the permission to brainstorm, permission to have this conversation. We know that not everyone likes to provide referrals or introductions, especially around financial matters.
Yeah.
So we can't just plow ahead. And that's an old school methodology where people were very assumptive.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found the value. Who do you know? And it's a little too assumptive for most people. And so we want to get permission. And I'll role play this real fast in just a second so everybody get it. The S is that coming prepared. Suggest names and categories. But be prepared to have this conversation. Don't just throw it open to the whole universe. So think of the referrals or introductions you get as the VIP the IPs of your business, the very
Yeah.
important people, the IPS, right? So, you know, Philip, I'm glad you're finding the work we do helpful and valuable. I appreciate that. You know, I've got an important question to ask you. I was hoping we could put our heads together for a couple minutes, see if we could identify a few folks that you think should at least be aware of the work we do, who need to make educated decisions themselves, as you have. And, you know, I've thought a little bit about this, and there's a few folks you've mentioned in previous meetings that I'd like to just bring up and see if you might feel comfortable introducing me. Would that be okay with you? So notice I came prepared. I let you know I came prepared. I could have said, you know, there's a few categories of people we do some pretty good work for. You happen to land in one of those categories. Can I run it by you to see what you think?
Yeah.
This coming prepared and letting you know I've come prepared actually creates a little curiosity on your part, doesn't it? Oh, who did I mention, or what category am I in, right? And so they go, well, yeah, okay, sure, you know, and that's what opens up the conversation. Now, they may not want to introduce you to their friend or their sister and brother-in-law, but it gets it going. It starts the brainstorm, and they may come up, you know, I don't want to introduce you to them. I don't even like them as much as maybe it seemed. But, you know, there is someone I'd be happy to introduce you to, my sister and brother-in-law, right?
Yes.
So you just got to get it started in a favorable way.
Yeah. And of the firms you've worked with, you know, what sort of results do you see, or do these practices see?
Well, you know, it does depend a little bit on the willingness of the advisor to implement the process, right? But I'll give you a few examples. One advisor, Aaron Gay, in Annapolis, Maryland, Legacy Financial, recently told me that in the first 6 months, he brought in 12 families, bringing in over $120 million of new assets that will net him every year about $127,000 of recurring annual revenue. That's in 6 months, using the things that I teach.
Yeah.
So that's on one end. James Mumbella is kind of a newer advisor. He was doing a lot of cold calling, leads, really calling leads. These are people that raise their hand, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to call them. But he was struggling, and then he learned our process, and he tripled his production in a month. Wow. Just by starting to talk about the things we're talking about here. Achilles Larry, as an advisor in New York City, he went to one of our boot camps. We don't do those as much as we used to, but he doubled his production the first year, and it went up another 60% the year after that. So, you know, these are some of the results that people have. And the truth is, some people don't do what I teach, and then they don't have any results, or they'll do a little bit, and there'll be a little bit of an uptick. So the results do vary based on user experience.
That's absolutely fascinating. Again, in our forums, we are seeing younger advisors coming through, and the sort of questions that we get from them are typically, there's a lot of firing in all kinds of different directions. Should we be using this? Should we be doing YouTube? Should we be doing podcasting? And with limited results. And what you're talking about here is fantastic results for no cost.
Exactly, no cost. The only cost might be a little thank you gift to the referral source, or maybe a thank you lunch where everybody gets together. So, you know, there are very few marketing strategies that can increase your revenue without increasing your marketing budget, and very little time, if you think about it. Yeah. It's not only a small investment in dollars, if at all, it's also a small investment of time in terms of what it takes to acquire this new prospect, right? And not to diminish the other things, not to diminish LinkedIn, not to diminish other social media, not to diminish the value of doing videos and those things. I mean, those things can have value and can play a role. I'm a big believer in video, and I think advisors who are inclined to look good on the screen do videos. You can also do animated videos and other types. So I'm not diminishing that at all. That's all part of the credibility building. That's all part about helping our clients feel good about who we are and the expertise we bring and all of that. And doesn't it make sense to make your primary driver of acquiring new clients the way people would prefer to meet you? The way someone would prefer to meet an advisor is an introduction from someone else they already trust. We started off by talking about relevance and being more relevant to our prospects. Well, the fastest, straightest line to relevance is being introduced by someone they already trust.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's making a decision to build a business based on that, and then using LinkedIn and using video to support those things.
Yes.
For instance, you can have a video that shows you well, and your referral source can send the link to to someone they're introducing you to. So you can still use those tools, but you use it in the context of introductions.
Yeah. Bill, this has been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate your time and expertise today. We're asking each of our guests if they could set a little challenge for our viewers, because it's great to hear all this fantastic information, but if they do nothing with it, nothing's going to happen. So what would be your challenge for our advisors?
Right. So, in sports, every athlete has a pre-game routine. It's things they do to get ready for the match, for the game, right? Musicians before a concert, etc. In the theater, whatever, warming up the voice, whatever it may be, right? So as advisors, we need to have a pre-appointment routine related to this concept of referrals and introductions. And it goes like this. Create an agenda for every meeting. You're going to manage a better meeting if you have an agenda. On the agenda, near the end, are the words value discussion. That's your trigger to check in, make sure everything's working on the relationship, make sure it's communications where it needs to be. Next step is to think, who do you know that they know? Do I know anyone that they know that I might be able to ask for a specific introduction to?
Yeah.
Or categories, right? How can I come prepared for this meeting where I have a value discussion and I might look for some introductions? And then the last one on this is, ideally, if you can find a colleague or someone to practice, to role play.
Yeah.
I know you like role play. I think it's very valuable. That what you want to do is talk it out once or twice before you actually do it with the client, right? Or at least just think through it. And if you're driving to the appointment or taking the tube to the appointment, just be rehearsing it in your head, right? Or at lunch, thinking through it. Just get clear. So that's that pre-appointment. Pre-game, pre-match, pre-appointment. We're getting ready for this. Yep. And so it's going to be in our awareness the entire time because we got ready for it.
Fantastic. That sounds a great idea. Thank you so much. So Bill, I know obviously you speak extensively, but you also have online courses. So this isn't the only book that you've got. Tell us about your other books, and indeed you're writing a new one, aren't you?
Yeah, so, and I have actually a new e-guide for people watching if they want to get it. Let me tell you that before I forget. It's if you go to multiply your best clients, multiplyourbestclients.com, because that's what I teach people to do, right? How to multiply their best clients. So www.multiplyourbestclients.com. You can get a report around that and some other information that we have to give to you. It's free, just go get it. My second book after Get More Referrals Now was Don't Keep Me a Secret, still in print. My most recent book on referrals is Beyond Referrals, which does talk about generating referrals, but then we go into the introductions because that's become so much more important, and appointment setting, and even some sales skills. Because how you set appointments from referrals, a little different than how you might set appointments from someone you met through another channel. And then, yes, the newest book I'm writing is called Radical Relevance. It'll be out in 2019. And in fact, after this interview with you, I'm going to the library to write and get this book finished. And that's about how we talk about our value, radical relevance. So, yeah.
Great stuff. Bill, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. So I've been recommending your book for years and years and years now. We've never spoken before, so it's been a great pleasure for me today.
Every time there's a surge in sales, I now know it's you.
You know where it's coming from. And for everybody else watching today, I hope you found this chat with Bill Cates absolutely enthralling, just as I have done. And thanks very much. Thanks to you again, Bill. And we'll see everybody on the next video. Goodbye for now.